If you've never painted on a primed, toned, and sanded canvas, you are in for an absolute treat. Even though the act of preparing a canvas is not my favorite thing to do, I consider it to be the foundation of creating a solid realist painting. However, since it can be a little tedious, you can do your future self a favor by batch preparing a bunch of canvases all at once, both getting it over with and eliminating friction standing between you and your painting. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Marianne. I'm a professional artist and educator, and in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the steps of how to prepare one or multiple canvases. We'll cover how to select the right canvas sizes in advance and both the why and the how of canvas preparation. I've also written free ebooks on both acrylic and oil painting, so if you're interested in learning more about either or both, I've linked them both in the description below. Both books include a detailed section on canvas prep, so you can have a step-by-step guide in addition to this video. So let's dive in. If you're like me, you buy your canvases pre-primed from the art store. This is how mine look before I prepare them. Now you might be asking yourself, why do extra steps if the canvas is already pre-primed? Well, for a number of reasons. First, canvases that come straight from the art store are pure white, which right away is a non-starter. As a realist painter, getting the right values in my painting is absolutely essential. Values, if you don't know, are how light or dark a color is, and having the correct value structure within your painting will make the difference between an amazing painting and a not so amazing painting. Which is why starting on a pure white canvas is a terrible idea. Color is relative, and anything, and I do mean anything, compared to pure white will seem darker by comparison. So if you have a color that has a very light value, such as a pale yellow, if you place it onto a white canvas, it will appear super dark by comparison. So to prevent this from being an issue, I tone my canvas by adding a color to the gesso during the prep stage. I usually choose a warm, earthy color for this, which also doubles as a built-in unifier for the colors in the painting. No matter what colors I'm layering on top of that ground, they're all tied together by the base color. It also means that if I accidentally miss a small section of canvas, instead of pure white canvas shining through the painting, which kind of looks bad, it just looks like yet another color in the piece, so it looks intentional as opposed to a mistake. Now let's talk about sanding. As a realist painter, I live for blends, and as such, I want my brushes to glide as easily as possible. Store-bought canvases that are pre-primed typically have a little more tooth, which means that there's more texture to the canvas's surface. Sanding allows you to buff out the tooth from the canvas, and trust me, there is nothing like painting on a buttery soft canvas when you're trying to do fine lines or details. Now that we know the why of what we're doing, let's dive into the how. The first thing you're going to do is to figure out the sizes of your canvases. I do that by taking my reference photo into Lightroom, which is a photo editing software, and playing around with different aspect ratios. The aspect ratio is the relationship between the height and the width of your canvas. A square canvas like this one would have a 1-to-1 aspect ratio because each side is equal. A 16 by 20 canvas like this one would have a 4-to-5 aspect ratio, since when we break 16 and 20 down into their lowest common denominators, it would be 4 units tall and 5 units long. An 8 by 10 inch canvas also has a 4-to-5 aspect ratio, so these two canvases have the exact same aspect ratio, but this one's 4 times bigger. That means that if I crop my reference photo to a 4-to-5 aspect ratio, it would work on either one of these canvases. The composition would remain the same, all that would change is the size. It's so important to make sure that the crop of your reference photo matches your canvas's aspect ratio. Otherwise, you might unintentionally stretch or compress your drawing or accidentally cut off part of it. So my first step is to figure out all of my aspect ratios for upcoming paintings, since the crop of the reference plays such a strong role in the overall composition. From there, I choose a canvas size that has the same aspect ratio as my reference, and then I have to decide if I want to have a regular profile, which is good for framing, or a gallery profile, which doesn't require framing. 9 times out of 10, I choose this one. Once I have all of my canvas sizes chosen and ready to go, I usually move into a larger space, like my dining room, and protect my table with a canvas drop cloth. Then I unpackage all the canvases and lay them out so that they each have enough space. For the priming mixture, combine some gesso, liquid acrylic, and a small amount of water into a bowl. You'll need enough of this mixture to cover as many canvases as you're batch preparing, so bear that in mind as you add in your ingredients. For the gesso, I'm using Liquitex Professional Artist Grade Gesso, and for the tone, I'm using Golden Liquid Acrylic in Quinacridone Nickel Azo Gold, oh, that's so hard to say, which is a beautiful reddish earth tone. Now apparently Golden has discontinued this color, but I also like using yellow ochre, which is easy to source and inexpensive. For your water, they recommend adding no more than 25% of the gesso, but I usually just eyeball it and splash a little bit in. All I'm doing is loosening up the mixture so it isn't as thick, since I want the gesso to glide on the canvas and avoid leaving brush strokes. I like to apply this with a foam brush since it creates an even application. After you've mixed all of that together, it's time to apply it to your canvases. This is where it really helps to put on some music or a podcast or a show, because this can take a while depending on how many canvases you have to prepare. Something to watch out for are drips. If there is any dripping gesso, make sure you smooth it out before it dries. I'll usually do a quick check on the sides to make sure that everything is smoothed out. You can protect and preserve any remaining gesso by sealing it with some saran wrap or placing it in an airtight container. I usually wait at least an hour or two for the canvases to dry, but they should be dry to the touch before the next step. Then it's time to sand. I usually start with a 220 grit sandpaper block, and to keep dust from flying everywhere, I'll spray the surface of the canvas with a light mist of water. I'll also add a quick spray to the sanding paper itself. I like to sand in little circles all over the surface. When you're done, take a slightly damp microfiber rag and wipe away any dust or debris left over from the sanding. Now you're ready to apply a second layer of the gesso mix. I repeat the exact same steps as before at least one additional time. And if I need an extra smooth canvas, I may even do another layer, still sanding between each application. For my final layer, once I've done a quick pass with the 220 grit sandpaper, I'll do a final sand with the 320 grit sandpaper. This makes the canvas extra smooth and soft. So now that all of my canvases have been primed, toned, and sanded, it's time to paint the edges black. Now, some artists do prefer to wrap their painting all the way around the edges of their canvas, and if that's you, awesome, don't do this next step. But for me, I really like the clean simplicity of a black edge. So I've got this tub of golden paint here, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the sides of my canvases. I'm actually going to start with this canvas, which was prime toned and sanded a few weeks ago with yellow ochre. So you can see the difference in the two paint colors. And I am going to just take this foam brush, dip it into my acrylic paint jar, and add it on. Now, one of the reasons that I like to do this at the beginning as opposed to after I've done painting my work is because I don't trust myself. I am so scared that I'm going to make a mistake. And so I would rather just do this stage right at the beginning when there's no stakes. And if I make a mistake and accidentally get a little bit of the paint onto the canvas, it's not a big deal. The painting itself will cover it up. So this is a great time to add in your black painted edges if you are going to paint the edges black. Usually what I like to do as well is to leave one side unpainted. So I've got this side unpainted. That just gives me a grip on the canvas so I don't have to worry about getting paint everywhere. So what I'll do is I'll do 3 edges on all of these canvases. I'll leave one empty. Once they're all nice and dry, then I'll add in my 4th edge. Oh, I just touched the side of it. 2 mistakes at once. Okay, now just in case you get a little streak like this on the side of your canvas, that's okay. Just keep a damp rag nearby and you can wipe it right off. See, good as new. And now we're gonna go ahead and do that for all of our canvases. This is time consuming. Put on some music, relax, and enjoy. Whew, it's been a long day of canvas prep, but now that I've batched all of my canvases, I don't really have an excuse to not paint since I can just get started right away. And check it out! Oh, it's so smooth. Ooh, these all look awesome, and I cannot wait to start on this one, which will be my next YouTube painting tutorial and feature this beauty of a reference photo. I'll also be uploading a real-time color study and painting tutorial of this image into both my color mixing with acrylic and painting flowers with acrylic courses, which you can check out in the description below. If you have any questions about canvas prep or just painting in general, feel free to leave them below and I will answer you. Thank you so much for watching and happy painting!